This video covers the interrogative pronoun, and interrogative, rogue, comes from the Latin verb rogo, which means to ask. So the interrogative pronoun is the pronoun that we use when we ask questions. So for example, let's say that you do not know who ate the apple. You might ask in English, who ate the apple? So who lets you ask the question where you're using a pronoun to stand in the place of the person that you cannot identify, and that's why you're asking the question to start with. So we've been talking a lot about words in English that start with WH and what those same words start with in Latin, and they start with QU. And you guys actually already know how to say in the nominative who when we're asking a question, and that's quis. And you also know how to say what when we're asking a question, which is quid, and that's going to be the basis for our chart. So we're just going to put those forms on our chart. In the singular, quis will do both masculine and feminine, which makes sense. If you don't know who the person is, how do you really know if it's a man or a woman? So we'll use just quis for masculine and feminine reference, and then quid for neuter. After this, you're going to see a lot of things that are familiar to you from the relative pronoun. It shares a lot of the forms. The big difference is we're going to have a sharing of form in the masculine and in the feminine. And since our neuter is quid here, in the accusative it'll also be quid, where in the relative we had quad. So I've got quis, quid. Think about your genitive. From the relative, it'll be the same. Quius for all three genders. And remember, masculine and feminine are sharing. Dative, qui. Accusative, we'll have to use the masculine form, but it'll work for the feminine as well. We've got quid for the neuter, and ablative, quo, the masculine form, and the neuter form, quo. And so in this chart, masculine and feminine in the singular only are sharing forms. When we move down into the plural, the forms are the exact same as the relative pronoun. So you already know this. You can do it with me. Make sure you're writing this out in your notebook. We'll have qui, quai, quai, quorum, 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 and then think about the dative. You know what it is already? Right, quibus, quibus, quibus. Accusative, quos, quas, quai to match, and then the ablative, quibus, quibus, quibus. So this is really nice and easy to add on to our knowledge. You would know that you have an interrogative instead of a relative. Mostly the easiest way is because the sentence will end with a question mark since you're asking a question, but you'll find that they're pretty easy to figure out other than that anyway. So if you're thinking about this form, it's very similar, as I've said a few times now, to the relative. The things that you want to be remembering is that in the singular, we've got these shared forms for the masculine and feminine. We also have that neuter that we didn't see before. The nominative, sorry, that is different from what we had before for the relative. Instead of qui, quai, we just have quis. And the nominative for the neuter is different too, which means the nominative for the accusative is different. Other than that, the masculine and feminine are sharing the masculine forms in the singular. And then in the plural, it looks just like the relative pronoun. So those are really the only differences. So this chart is super easy to add on to your existing knowledge. So now to practice in your notebook, you need to write out the interrogative pronoun chart 3 to 5 times until memorized. So that's your practice. Do that in your notebook and make sure you bring it with you tomorrow. I'm going to scroll back up so you can check your work against the chart. But try to, maybe copy it down once or twice by looking at it, and then try to do it without checking. So there's the chart again so that you can check your work. Thank you.